Right, today we're going to learn how to solve quadratics by factoring. Factoring method is a great method to use. It doesn't always work, but it is the technique that we will use probably more often than not. So one of the questions we want to ask ourselves is, what does the graph of x squared look like? The graph of x squared is a parabola. That's the name we give it. I'll spell that for you. Parabola. When we solve a quadratic, what we're really doing is figuring out where it crosses the x-axis. And those are our solutions to the quadratic equation. As I said, factoring is the way we are learning today. There are other methods. Square rooting both sides is another method. We'll do that another day. And the quadratic formula we'll learn later is the third method. This method always works with every single problem, but it does take some time to complete. Factoring is a much more quick way of coming up with the solution. How do we do this? Well, we're going to use what's called the zero product property. And what we can ask ourselves is this question: if AB equals 0, then what do we know? I know that A or B is equal to 0. I know this because A times 0 would give me 0, or 0 times B would give me 0. So what we're going to be doing when we use the zero product property is asking, what makes this binomial 0? The answer to that is when x is 7. What makes this binomial 0? The answer to that is x equals -2. -2 plus 0, or -2 plus 2 is 0. The same as 7 minus 7. That is also 0. To solve quadratic equations using factoring, we first have to set the equation equal to 0. So let me add that word in here. Set equation equal to 0. We do that by moving all terms to one side. Watch your signs. Then you factor completely using the techniques we've been doing, looking for the GCF to make things easier. We check with the smiles, and then we're going to use the new part, the zero property, which means we're going to set each part equal to 0 and solve. Let's look at one of these examples. Here we're going to say, this is already factored, so this one's really easy to set up. We're going to say x minus 1 equals 0, or x minus 4 equals 0. When either of those two cases happen, this would be a true equation. So when I add 1 to both sides, we find out that x equals 1. This is one of my solutions. And then when I solve the other equation, I get x equals 4. So this equation actually has two solutions, 1 and 4. Let's look at a second example. This one does not have the equation set equal to 0. That's the first step we have to do. I always want my x squared to be positive. So make x squared positive. So I'm going to leave the 3x squared on the left-hand side. I'm going to move my 19 to the other side, which means I have minus 19x. And I'm going to add 20. So I have minus 19x, and I added 20 to the left-hand side. That equals 0. At this point, I need to factor 3x times x, and then I'll have a 5 and a 4, minus and minus. That creates -4x and -15x, and this equals 0. I'll finish this on the next video.